Happy to have everybody. So as I call this meeting to order, I'd ask that Ms. Reed, if you please call the roll.
Senator Bill Stanley.
Here.
Senator Emmett Hanger.
Here.
Richard Hall.
Don't even.
Here.
Delegate Adams. Delegate Williams.
Here.
Delegate Kathleen Murphy. Dr. Hubert Harris.
Present. That's right.
Tanae Tweedy. Mr. Eric Jones.
Present.
Mr. Cameron Patterson.
Present.
Miss Maria Tamburi, she's on her way. Miss Rebecca Horner.
Here on Zoom.
And Mr. Mike Edwards.
Here. Mikey.
Senator, you do have a quorum
We have a
present in the
quorum.
room.
Present in the room, we have a quorum, which under the rules and regulations of this committee, board allows us to vote on certain matters. I think we have one matter to vote on today, but I want to welcome everybody who drove down here to join us. It's great to see a lot of faces that I've seen on the TV screen the last meeting, to see everybody in person. I think it's better when we work together in person, and certainly we've got a lot of exciting stuff. I think I'm not going to take up a lot of time with what I've got to talk about, but first things, we got to get the housekeeping done. Our last meeting was June 21st, 2023. You have been sent a packet of board minutes in your packet. Hopefully you've reviewed those. If you don't, there is a copy of those board minutes in the folder that you have in front of you. Is there a motion to approve the last board meeting minutes?
So moved.
Motion being properly made by
Second.
by Senator Emmett Hanger. A second was heard in the ether somewhere by someone we hope is a member. That would be Mr. Hall. Is there any discussion or correction that needs to be made to these meeting minutes? Hearing none, with a motion made and properly supported by a second, all in favor of approval of the June 21st, 2023 board meeting minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
The motion passes. We need to adjust the statute regarding Zoom meetings to allow that anybody with the last name Hall cannot attend by Zoom, but we'll get to that later. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to just give you an update. I mean, we've been rolling pretty fast and furious here at New College. We're just, Joe Sumner and Miss Reed have been working very hard on the programs that we've put in place, and this board has been moving together. I can tell you without going into too much great detail that myself and Mr. Hall yesterday had a second meeting with some of the staff of the governor's office regarding New College Institute, its future, and where we saw ourselves being over the next 2 years, and certainly where they might want to see us to be. And so we were pretty confident in demonstrating that what we've done up to this point, where we're going from here, is a strong position that the governor's office should support, and that any other option was unworkable and probably wouldn't bear fruit in terms of what our potential is here and what we can accomplish in comparison to what any other option might be. So we had some very fruitful conversations with them. We shared with them some information about some of the educational platforms in the area, and certainly our vision of where we think we can go with what we are doing now, and especially with the team that we have in place. A lot of times the governor's office thinks of things in terms of business because they come from a business background. So, when they start, they do a little bit of a compare and contrast. Sometimes it's a very fruitful discussion. Sometimes it's apples and oranges. And Mr. Hall and I were not afraid to point out the differences there. Sometimes they like to compare things to being a startup. We're a little different than that, but we wanted to remind them that what we have in terms of our ability to be nimble, on the statutory creations that allow us to be expansive in terms of our arm's length reach, where we can go, where community colleges cannot go, where concierge operations cannot go, where higher education centers cannot go. So we were very confident in telling them and making them feel comfortable about what we're doing right now and how important it is, not just to the region, how important it is not just to our students that are in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade right now or living at or below the poverty level, but we can create a way to break that cycle of poverty And I think we laid out our vision in a very cogent and concise way that I think will garner the support of the executive branch. As you know, you might ask, well, why are we having these discussions? Because those that work in government know that we're getting ready to have the governor's last budget. Actually, he does a budget on his way out, but really his last fruitful budget where the executive branch can put forth policy decisions is coming out this fall. And what we want to be able to do is demonstrate that we are worth the financial commitment that the state has made. We reminded them that the financial commitment that the state had made was as a result of our issues with regard to our foundation. Not to go too deeply into that, but that is moving around and is not static. Is that fair, Counselor?
Yes, sir.
I
and
can
that's
say
all
with
we
that.
need to say.
And that's all I will say. But I say that in a very positive manner.
Very positive.
And I will say something that I know I can say, Ms. Marcus, but is the New College Foundation became the Martinsville Henry County Educational Foundation. They believing that they could do what they do with our money, which I would state in my opinion is money raised by New College and provided also by state resources in the purchase of the building. They then applied to become this new independent, wonderful foundation, utilizing the finances, the funding that we had basically raised for them and had been provided to them by the state. And I can tell you that the IRS, this is not private, right? I can talk about this, right? I can, it's public. The IRS rejected their application. So they were not given the status that they wanted to have. In fact, the IRS rejected soundly their application to become this independent funding body for the very reason that you can't use state funds and transform yourself into something that you're not permitted to do. So that puts them back in a position where, again, their only obligation, as originally stated, was the support of New College as we move forward. Counselor, have I crossed any lines yet?
No, sir. And
You look like an umpire ready to save her out.
So
So,
like, let's just stop there.
no, but I think that's an important thing to bring up. That the Internal Revenue Service, the federal government, rejected their request for change of status and to utilize the funds at their discretion. Which means that they're left with, in my opinion, my legal opinion, they're left with exactly where they started. And so hopefully they understand that and we can create that kind of relationship again, or quite frankly, we can start our new foundation. And I believe we should move towards creating the vessel for a new foundation because I see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I see it in a very positive light. And it's not a train coming to hit us either. So I went right along the line there, Counselor, but I did not cross over. But I feel very positive where we're sitting right now. And that really, sometimes it's been the focus of this board because they have really tried to change us, do us in, move away, forget their obligation. Well, that is over. So hopefully a resolution is forthcoming. All right. So we talked about the budget. We talked about the foundation's current status or lack thereof. And then I will say this. It is important what you're about to hear from our board, from our executive director. I will say that the Commonwealth of Virginia has a lot of confidence in you, Mr. Sumner, and that is great to hear. And you, Ms. Reed, for all that you've done, and all of our staff. It is time for all of us to double our efforts as we move forward in this vision that we have and demonstrate that vision is important to the future of the Commonwealth of Virginia. So I pass that along as well. Again, I think Mr. Hall and I have had we've now traveled to Richmond on 2 different occasions in a 9-day span and had some very constructive conversations. And I'd say even in defense of what we've done, as much as the vision that we have moving forward. So I know that we'll be working on a new foundation. We'll be working on making sure that we secure funding. We're not asking for anything more. We're just asking for maintenance, I think. Is that the budgetary ask, or did you ask for more?
We only asked for a
Funding.
We asked for funding for a full-time position in response to the OSIG's recommendation for a full-time data management person.
As directed by the governor
That's
on
correct.
what to ask for.
So that's all we asked for.
That is all we've asked for, yes.
And we have not received approval yet by the secretary.
Okay. The Secretary of Ed? Okay. So, anyway.
Oh my God.
You're not on mute, Richard.
Okay.
Anyway,
No, don't, Bill, don't go there.
I'm not. Is there any questions about what I've just talked about from anybody, a member of the board? Okay. So, anyway,
Bill, could I add one thing?
sure, certainly.
We're moving forward. I'm moving forward with the development of our new foundation. As you discussed, we're moving forward. I think I've gotten 3 of our former board members to serve as the initial board, and there'll be more information on that coming out very soon.
Very good.
That's all I had to say.
Yeah. So we've been doing a lot of things, but we feel really good about where we are. We like our positioning, and I think we're dealing from a position of leverage and strength. And so with that, God bless you. With that, I think my update for the first time ever has been under 15 minutes, and I'm going to try to set that record and keep that record, a new world record. And I'm going to turn it over to Joe because he's got a lot to talk about with us, and I think a lot of exciting things that will give us a great insight of what's in store coming up in the future. Mr. Sumner.
Thank you, Senator Stanley. Board, members of the media, NCI employees, thank you all for joining us. I prepared an executive director's update. I prepared it in the format of a presentation. Last time I received a couple of requests to have something to follow along with, so to speak. So I'll have the presentation on the screen there. Those of us joining by Zoom. If you do not have copies, I believe digital copies were sent out, but if for some reason they were not, we would get those to you. But you also have a printed copy, board members that are here, if you'd like to follow along on a paper copy as well. I'm not sure that I can match Senator Stanley's time of 15 minutes. I will do my best, but I do have a tendency the further I get.
Don't talk fast.
Okay. As we all know, I tend to speed up the further along we get into this. So feel free to throw something at me if I get to rapid fire too much. All right, there we go. Just a quick top level views, the updates that I'll run through for everyone: personnel, institution, facilities, programs, enrollment, marketing, and events. All right, personnel updates. Generally I wouldn't get this in the weeds with the board, but we all know that there's been a lot of turnover, a lot of vacant positions that need to be filled. So just want to kind of keep everyone in the loop on this. We have filled some positions with some phenomenal folks. Olivia actually just stepped out. She went to pick up one of our board members that's charging their vehicle uptown there, but she'll be joining us here soon.
Charging your vehicle, huh?
Yes, sir.
Couldn't be here because they were charging the vehicle.
Yes, sir.
Charging the vehicle, right?
Yes, sir. So Olivia Garrett has joined us as the Director of Institutional Advancement. She handles a couple of different things. We spoke about this briefly, I believe, in the last board meeting, but she has officially joined us. She'll handle things such as grants, government relations, some public relations, and some marketing as well. We also had a position that was a part-time position, Mr. Marshall Thomas. That has been moved to a full-time position, Director of Safety and Security, that actually falls under the DeVaris contract. They actually have the capability to have a position that incorporates safety. That was done for a couple of reasons that we'll get to in a little bit later, but basically as we continue to increase our programming and our presence in the building, we've got to beef up some of our safety and security measures, and we just needed someone full-time to lead that. We also have brought on an HR specialist. Diana Pace joins us from local individual that joins us from Piedmont Community Services. Holly, who's on the Zoom call, has contracted with us the past couple of weeks and helping out with some of our public relations and our press releases. And then we have a couple of part-time wage positions that have joined us recently. Mr. Rob Landon retired from the Henry County School Systems. IT, you probably saw him here at the beginning, setting everything up for us. And then Ms. Kim Phillips is currently in a part-time position, handling our data and institutional effectiveness. A couple of departures for you, again, just kind of showing the way that we're trying to counter the turnover, making sure we bring in more than we're sending out. We had a marketing director who was a 100% remote position full-time. That individual has left the team. We also had a customer service receptionist that was part-time and an additive manufacturing specialist that was part-time. Both of them have left us to pursue other opportunities. All right, institution updates for everyone. Couple things.
Before you move
Yes.
on, finance director, when Christine went over to become our deputy director,
Yes.
who replaced you as finance?
No one. Ms. Reed is continuing to oversee finances with the assistance of Ms. Joanne there at the end of the table. Between the two of them, they have currently been covering down on those finance responsibilities.
Okay.
We are, as we bring on new personnel, part of the priorities are to figure out how to get some of the workload off of Ms. Reed that she's been handling multiple roles for. So that is part of the process in determining which role do we fill next, is trying to figure out what do we need to take off of Ms. Reed so that she can move into more of that deputy director role that we had.
Is there a need for a finance director? I would think so.
Ms. Reed?
You think so?
Mhm.
We were discussing,
Well, I'm firing her as deputy.
can I discuss personnel changes?
Yes, ma'am. Pardon me.
We were discussing moving Joanne into more of a leadership role and having that as me supervising. So that I would still do a lot less than I'm doing now, but still provide that additional support to have that higher level finance. And then with Joanne, and then we have Diana, who can also do some of the finance roles. That's sort of what we're kind of looking at.
I'll buy that for $1.
Well, I've known no other finance director than her. I mean, it's hard to let that go. But she's so capable. I mean, if there's anybody that can handle both, it's her, of course. And I did not mean to interrupt her.
I apologize.
Go ahead.
Ms. Reed and I presented to the Op 6 team on August 18th. Chev has informed us that they'll be providing feedback. The original date was last Friday. They have since emailed and said that they were pushing that date out for a little bit longer in order to provide feedback. When we were there, we did not receive any direct negative feedback. We received positive feedback. We were encouraged to collaborate more with some of the other higher ed centers and to continue on with some of the initiatives that we presented to them. We have an executive retreat scheduled up for September 27th coming up. We'll be here locally in town, but we're going to step away from the office for a day, review strategic plan, look at kind of the entire organization, if you will, from a strategic plan approach, try to align some of our budgeting with some of our initiative needs, and then just making sure that we're all on the same page. We've got a lot of new team members that have joined us recently, so just make sure that we are all marching to the same drumbeat, if you will. The Wendell Scott Foundation is currently in the process of moving in. If you all remember one of our previous meetings, Mr. Warwick Scott was here, and that MOU has been signed, and his team is currently moving in. That'll happen over the course of September to October, and leading up to an incredible event that we have planned that I'll share some more on coming up at the end of October. We were informed by one of our university partners, Longwood, that they have their 10th year SAC COC visit scheduled for March 18th. Any of my friends in academia, you know that is no small deal. That is an all hands on deck. That is the 10th year visit that provides them with the accreditation needed to keep awarding degrees, be eligible for awarding financial aid and such as that, among many other things. As an offsite location for the university, that is a requirement that occasionally comes up in the SAC cycle, is that the team visits any offsite locations to ensure that we're providing everything that a Longwood student would receive on any campus of Longwood, regardless of their location. So a lot of what they'll be looking for will be consistency with Longwood offerings, making sure that we provide wraparound services, support services, things of that nature.
Now, is that their on-site visit? They're gonna come here, physically here?
Yes, sir, they are. Yes, sir. And we.
Interesting factoid, 500 pages of narrative with Longwood SAC submission, 1,500 pieces of evidence.
Wow.
So it's a credible effort. Thank y'all.
Yes. in a previous life, I've been a part of a 5th year and a 10-year SACS visit. Generally, with a 10-year, you start about 2 years earlier planning for it. But we're in a good place. We're in good shape. We're meeting regularly with Longwood, and we're looking forward to that visit because that will just strengthen our standing among the university community. So that, look, we have successfully passed a 10-year SACS visit. You know that we're up to the bar of what you're looking for in a partner for any of your degree offerings at our locations.
Any NCI evidence needs to be presented to SACS?
That is what they are determining. They have not identified anything as of yet, but they are putting together a list for us. She asked us to focus on, again, those kind of student support services, IT services, and safety.
Control of finances is also a big one for SACS.
Yes. Noted. Thank you, sir. All right, facility updates. A couple of updates for you as far as what we've done to the beautiful Baldwin building here and some of our other facilities. We've completed some cement repairs. You may have noticed some newer looking spots on the sidewalks if you arrived on the lower floor there. These are just repairs that kind of have been put on pause for a little bit, but have presented some safety issues or some aesthetic issues that may have potentially affected revenue operations. So lecture hall carpet installation is complete. We replaced all the carpet in the lecture hall. It was simply to the point of no return. We've had multiple companies tell us we can't clean it anymore. You're basically running out of carpet to clean at this point. We've cleaned it to the point to where what's there is there. And if we clean it anymore, you'll be looking at the concrete underneath it. So we're proud of that. It's beautiful. Take a look at it on your way down. We're in the process of installing ballistic film on all of our glass throughout the building. Part of it has been completed already. It's happening in stages because, of course, it causes a little bit of upheaval in offices and common areas. So we didn't want the entire building to be in a state of turmoil. So it's being completed in phases. This room, the second floor, and portions of the other side of the building have been completed. We prioritized the areas of the building that had the most student attendance frequented. So that's why we started on the second floor. That's where all of our Longwood classes, that's where the majority of our rentals for classroom and student education occurs on that second floor. So that's why that was done first. The next move will be on the first floor. And then from there, just coming back, hit any of the other spots that didn't make it in the first 2 rounds.
Is there any possibility that the ballistic glass would or film impact cellular service?
Not to my knowledge, no, sir. I'm not informed enough to speak to that, but that is not anything that has been shared with me.
Richard, do you know anything about that? I mean, since you're a laminating and coating guy?
It's going to have no effect on cellular service. None.
A couple of things upcoming that we are working on: restriping and repairing some of the asphalt in the parking lot. Again, you know, I view it as, one, it's safety, but also the outside of our building sometimes is the only impression people have of us. So when things start to look faded, when they start falling into disrepair, then what does that reflect on the organization? So that's part of why we've included that. Also, the lecture hall lights, we're exploring replacing those. The technology that was included in the ballast of the lecture hall lights is obsolete. We cannot get replacements for them. So as those lights start going out, we're left with basically a revenue generating opportunity that looks like it is not being maintained. So we're looking to replace the lecture hall lights. Again, that would be an entire replacement simply because there is a noticeable difference in the lighting of the newer models versus the older models because of the ballast technology. Future, some things we're looking at is reworking some of the electrical in the high bay. That's one of those kind of just putting a stake in the future, if you will, that we will work towards. We've got an initial quote. We have not pursued anything very far on that. We're just kind of testing the waters. We know that as the fiber and GWO programs continue to grow, the high bay will need to be reconfigured slightly to accommodate the larger student population, which will then require some electrical work to be reconfigured to accommodate movement of some of the machines and equipment that's in there. Questions on facility updates?
Have we thought about electric vehicle chargers? Obviously. No, but
We need to put one out there for you.
not for me, but no, I mean, I think it's it's something that is needed as more people start, kind of moving into that, both either, electric or hybrids.
Yes, ma'am. We had actually started kind of tiptoeing into the subject. I don't want to say we went heavily into it, but we did kind of get a couple of round figure estimates, if you will, no formal quoting. It's going to be expensive. It's going to be very expensive for
What
us.
price?
Um,
I mean, just ballpark here.
50 grand,
A station?
just to put one in. Now, the cost is not proportional. So the second one's not 100,000, but to put, it gets cheaper as you go, but to break ground and put one in, 50,000 minimum. Yes, sir.
Plus the electricity cost.
Yes, sir. And there, yes, so we would carry there's a couple of different options. Either we would carry the cost of the electricity that's provided, or there's a pay-to-play model, so to speak, park, swipe your card type thing. Yes, sir. But there's a lot of hoops to jump through that, being a state facility, but also being within city limits. So it would be a pretty lengthy process, kind of threading the needle between all the different things. It is something we could do. And it's certainly something that in the future would probably prove beneficial. We have a couple of members here that drive hybrid or electric vehicles on our staff as well. It's just something that we didn't think the funding was there driving that just yet. So we wanted to, yes, ma'am.
Sounds like a great grant initiative.
That's exactly what I was
Is it a
thinking.
grant initiative or are there commercial companies that provide those and they reap the reward?
Yeah.
of the electric pay?
Yes, sir.
Because I
Something to
mean,
look
it
into.
would be interesting to see what grants even federal government's doing around that.
Yes.
Chair, it might be worth reaching out to the Department of Energy, the former mines, mineral and something,
MME.
Okay.
because the Federal Infrastructure Investment Act had a fair amount of
It's exciting, yeah,
new money for states.
yeah.
Mhm.
And I just met, I was in a meeting with a group of people with the Secretary of Commerce in DC. And there's a lot of money on broadband. That's something that was discussed to institutions, to business, just overall, that's kind of funneled through the state. So I'm sure that there's also some funding tied to EVs. Not because I drive one, of course, but I mean, it's something that I'm more conscientious about it because you have to, where do you have, what infrastructure is available around the country with EVs, but
Let the minutes reflect the disclaimer.
yes, please,
well.
no, not at all. But it's definitely an
Advocating for the greater
opportunity.
good of the student body.
The direction that Mike was going there, I think it probably needs to evolve into a state contract, so there's uniformity, all state agencies
Yeah.
and be able to participate, with that based on.
Great idea.
Yeah,
Right, and
get the
that,
cost way down.
that ensures that there are no legal problems, because you have to think in terms of, we were talking about the electricity, well, that is taxpayer electricity. And so we'd have to be
Oh, that's-
careful. We have to be careful.
Yeah, and you can pay,
Right, right.
like, but it's where we're moving, in many ways as a nation with all the incentives to drive. And honestly, I didn't look into it as much until I've actually been vested in it, but the infrastructure is lacking across, the US and it's something that students might want to do that and then feel like, well, I don't have a lot of places to do it. And, so thinking about maybe opportunities or maybe just doing some sort of polling with students, who would be interested in something like that, it might be something that we could offer.
And with respect to Senator Hanger's comment, Mr. Chairman, it might be that DGS has a contract.
Sure. So, Joe, I think what we're seeing here is there's some interest in the board. Why don't we just, for next time, so when we get back together, maybe there's some options we can explore.
Sure. Yes, sir. All right. All right, program updates. GWO, Global Wind Organization. So we are now proud to say that we are certified to offer the 4 levels of GWO: basic safety training, basic technical training, advanced rescue training, and sea survival. There are not a lot of places that can offer this in the United States, and there are no others that can claim to offer all of these types of trainings within the Commonwealth. We are in the process of scheduling a visit for Dominion Energy as well as Siemens Gamesa. We are hoping to schedule it almost as a ribbon cutting, kind of an unveiling, if you will. And I would love to have all of you present for that if you are willing to drive down and join us.
Mr. Executive Director, can
Yes,
you
sir.
just explain for guys like me that hate anachronisms, anagrams,
Okay,
whatever the
yes.
heck they are, what VST, VTTA,
Yes,
RTO?
Sure. So basic safety training is going to be confined spaces, fire and emergency evacuation, CPR, things of that nature. It is the entry level type of training that is required for the technicians that will be servicing the turbines off the coast. Basic technical training is more of your maintenance focus. It focuses on electrical and electronic troubleshooting, repair, hydraulic operations, and mechanical to include things such as power tools all the way down to calculating torque. ART is advanced rescue training. It's going to be a combination of kind of fire and rescue, but incorporating some of the safety such as confined spaces, a blackout condition, a smoky environment, things of that nature. And then sea survival is what happens if your partner falls in the water? Just point blank, what do? How do you save them? There are certain ways to rescue an individual when you're wearing certain types of gear that the GWO training will provide. Generally, it can be anywhere from 20 to 90 pounds of gear that the technicians will be wearing, depending on what tools they have. So you can imagine if one were to wind up in the water, what it takes to get an individual out with that gear. And then the actual rescue devices themselves, inflatable rafts, inflatable vests, how to activate the beacon that signals the Coast Guard, all of that is included in Sea Survival.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. The latest update that I have received from Siemens and Dominion is that we can anticipate an influx of training specifically around the sea survival component. That's what makes us so unique, the ART and the sea survival. In addition to having all four in one location, just having that sea survival is really the cherry on top, if you will. There's not a lot of facilities that offer it. Well, we were told by the auditor from GWO that approved our site, she said, what really makes your site stand out above and beyond, not just the rarity of it, but the fact that it is on an actual outside body of water. Most facilities, we're informed, do this in a controlled climate environment inside a pool, whereas ours is outside, so we can actually incorporate things such as wave activity, such as, you know, the difference of training in July compared to training in February is significantly different as far as water temperatures.
Weather too.
Yes, sir. Yep.
That's awesome.
And let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
On these classes, I think if I remember correctly, we have limited space.
That is correct. For GWO standards and for safety standards, we're limited to 6 personnel for most of these. There is one that can go up to 8 personnel, but generally the ratio of instructors is going to be limiting you to 6 students, basically per week.
So 6 students per week. I thought there was also a max cap of like 40 somewhere in that, or was I mistaken?
No, so we are projecting out that we would be able to provide training for 40 individuals per semester as we're fully up and running.
Further question, then that is standard for any GWO teaching facility.
Yes,
So
sir.
it's not that we're smaller, we are getting the max amount of students that can be put through the program at any one given time.
Yes, sir. Unless I build duplicates of the equipment we already have and hire twice the amount of instructors. We are limited.
We're not
Yes,
there
sir.
yet. And hopefully we'll get there.
Yes.
But then in terms of cycling through, how many, I'm gonna say 6-member classes can we do per how many days?
Yes.
I mean, what's that?
How many 6-member
I
classes?
mean, you know, how many
Number of
classes can you run?
sections that
Yes.
you can offer.
Yeah, thank you.
Simultaneously?
He-
Is it-
He translates for me.
Yeah, either concurrently or.
If you were to
sequential.
run them at a
Right.
time,
Right.
and I'm guessing you could have 6 in the BST, 6 in the BTT, 6 in the arts, 6 in the sea survival, all running at the same time?
No, because I think he's using the same instructor.
Correct. I'm using the
Gotcha,
same.
okay.
Yes, sir. I'm using the same
So
instructor
it's
for those.
six total that run through all 4 of those.
Yes, sir. That is correct. In
And-
addition, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And how many weeks?
So each of those is a little different. BST is going to be 4.5 days. BTT 4 days. ART is I want to say 3 days, and Sea Survival is a 1 day. So depending on when the organizations call us, we may have an entire week of BST. We've had organizations that call and say, "Can I squeeze in advanced rescue and Sea Survival all in 1 week?" So it's really
12 days. 4 guys over 12,
Approximately, yes,
men
sir.
and women.
Yes, sir.
And then you can repeat that cycle based on the need.
Correct. Yes, sir.
And are they bundled together or individually?
Great question.
We price them individually, but we provide bundled discounts when approached by companies. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Just like
How
a
many of
progressive
these- I
ad, you
think
know, it's better
I
to
think
bundle.
Right.
Where the senator's question is, how many of these can you do a year?
How many can we do a year?
Yeah.
That's a tough question to give you an answer that I can specifically say, this is the number. I have calculated that and I can send it to you, but I did that with me
Okay, I'll ask
determining.
it this way
Yes,
then.
okay.
What is the demand
Yes.
for these?
We are looking at a full class twice a month based on what we have been told. We are looking at 2 weeks of a month
Okay,
being completely full, so 12 students a month for the next year is kind of the scenario that we are planning for. Yes, sir.
And the governor's office, in our conversations with Mr. Hall, prefer, of course, to have Virginia-based companies given priority.
Yes, sir.
And I
Absolutely.
understand that, and that would be at least with GWO right now, Dominion.
Yes, sir.
And then we have other, like, well, I guess it's Vineyard Wind and all those other
Yes.
ones that they would also have those needs. So
so 24 classes a year.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And again, that number could,
math guy.
if we get an influx of sea survival classes, we can knock those out a day at a time. Theoretically, we could offer 5 sea survival classes in 1 week. It's just a matter of what the demand. Generally, the way we do it, we will set schedules for the year, set an annual schedule for the year. We have a minimum number of individuals that we have to have in order to recoup our costs for having a class. If we do not hit that minimum number, then we will reach back out to the company and ask if they have any additional training while their guys are here. So for instance, if we can squeeze in sea survival or something to kind of justify, we can make a little more money to cover these, even though you don't meet the minimum. So we always try to work with them on that.
So hypothetically, say Dominion actually wants over the number of people. How do we handle that scenario?
We will make it happen. We will make it happen. I will have to figure out how, but we are committed to making it
Do
happen.
we have a resource because this is cyclical, right?
Yes.
You may not need the demand all the time.
Yes.
Do we have the ability to reach out and get a contingent person to
Yes.
come in to provide that instruction?
Yes, sir. We have an individual we have a really good history of relationship with. We've actually contracted with him several times. He's based out of Texas. He is a career GWO trainer, among other things.
Okay.
He has trained with these same organizations in Europe. And we actually brought him on to help us get our ART and sea survival training started.
So we can handle the demand.
We can handle an increase. Yes, sir.
And he's visited.
He's been here multiple times. Yes, sir.
Right,
Yes, sir.
Okay. Cool.
And let me just ask this question too. So it seems like what we're looking at right now is a captive audience in terms of who we market to, which is to these specific corporations who have specific employees that they've specifically hired, rather than somebody who wants to come in and I want to do this, who comes in as a student would come in to say a community college or a regular college and start taking classes, correct?
Yes, sir. That is correct. To my knowledge, every student that we have had come through GWO has already been hired, brought on either with a union or a utility provider or a contractor that provides something such as maintenance as a third party.
So assigned to you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So nobody off the street.
No, sir. Now we
Have
can,
one
we had one. Okay.
local.
Okay. So we have had one.
Okay.
My apologies for that. But generally what we're doing is we're marketing to those companies that are in this sector. It is certainly something that we would love to welcome anyone straight off the street, so to speak, green, no experience. They could go into it. I don't know that we, other than the one, I don't know that we have not made any efforts to try to market this locally. What was brought to light, and you actually in your folder have a report that really kind of brings some things up that we have not always messaged to everyone that we need to start messaging a little better. And Holly helped prepare this report, and it was incredible. The gentlemen that she interviewed there were part of the Vineyard Project. They do 3 weeks off, 3 weeks on. And so my understanding is the teams that I've spoken to from Siemens and Dominion, they do a 2-week on, 2-week off. So it is something that could be very viable to an individual that lives in Martinsville to walk in with no career experience, receive the training, get hired on with a company such as Dominion. That's very realistic that you can drive to the coast, go to work for 2 weeks, and then drive back to Martinsville and be home for 2 weeks. That's
As a suggestion, is that something that we should reach out to the local workforce board to entice them to provide students that
Or
may be
even
interested?
partnership with the companies you're marketing to, because what you then become is a recruitment station in a way, like, the Navy, Army, Air Force, Marines have recruitment stations. And so somebody can be interested, come off the street, and they can coordinate with these companies like Dominion and other companies to kind of hook up and then go through the process and come back through maybe some of our things. And that's an add-on
It's
for those
something that the
contractual
community college
relationships.
Can't do.
Right, and it's an add-on in a partnership relationship that we create with the company as well, which I think is something that we can offer again that no one else can.
yes.
But the community colleges.
The BST and the
Mr. Jones.
BGT, yes.
One other question. You mentioned unions.
Sorry.
You mentioned unions, right?
Yes, sir.
So, could somebody receive this training through their union?
Yes, and the majority of our trainees, since I have been in place, have been from unions.
So our relationship is with the broader union community as well, right?
Yes, sir. That is correct.
Because those are everywhere.
Yes,
So from a perspective, this could be baked into their progression plan.
Yes.
All union members get certified in this.
Is it a
with
specific union? I mean,
Yes.
is it like, it's not United Auto Workers or?
Iron Workers
FLC?
Union.
Iron Workers?
Iron workers.
Okay.
Iron workers.
Iron workers. The
Okay.
majority of, we have had a couple of the IBEW team members, but the majority of ours have been the Iron Workers Unions, from Pennsylvania, Maryland, up near that.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah, okay.
So that you can market.
Yes, definitely.
So quick question. I know that you're having a visit from Dominion Energy. I would like to learn.
We're
more,
trying to,
We're trying-
we're trying to
well,
work
just-
out the details.
We will.
Let me know and I'm happy to assist and particularly with the workforce development piece.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
think getting the right person from Dominion in that visit
Okay.
as well. So I'm happy to connect kind of.
I would love that. I have a email correspondence going with Mr. John Larson. Can I
Yeah, I
loop you
know,
in on that
John.
one?
Yes,
Okay.
I have not been in the email, but just
Okay.
maybe put me in the email exchange and I will make sure that we get the right people.
Based on
Yes, ma'am.
conversations with the governor's office, I had high level communications with Dominion to move them, it's
Yeah.
not just MOU, it's creating that relationship. So that's where we are right now and that's moving
Perfect.
forward. And Joe and I have had discussions on that. So
Perfect. And I'm happy to assist.
perfect, because that kind of relationship that's already established would be even better for us.
Of course.
Thank you.
All right, our Fiber Broadband Academy. So a couple of our instructors were certified as program administrators in August. This is kind of one of those required formality steps. You got to have the administrator certified at a level, then your instructor certified at different levels. So that was completed recently. We are posting for an adjunct fiber instructor position. Hopefully within the month, we get all that through the pipeline there up at Richmond, and they approve us to get it out there on the public forum, and we can get a good high-speed fiber instructor in. Training, non-certification. So I want to clarify for everyone real quick. We will have multiple forms of training with the Fiber Broadband Academy. Some will be certifications. Think of an 8-hour training that leads to an assessment, whether hands-on or a written exam at the end, sometimes a 40-hour training. Some of these are as long as 120 hours of certifications and trainings. But those are certifications and licensures. We are also putting together just what I call go-to-work training. When I was kind of doing my listening tour to identify what we need to do for fiber and broadband, I called just anyone and everyone that I could that was associated with fiber, broadband, internet service providers, utility providers, and it was all across the board. It was, we want them to have this certification. We want them to have this one and this one. We don't need them to have any certification. We just need them to show up and know how to do the job. So to meet that mixture, and there was not one that rose above the other, it was pretty even across the board from the input. So to meet that, what we're going to do is we're going to schedule the certifications throughout the year. But in between those, we will have short-term training with no certification, with no requirements, basically someone that just says, I've heard it's a good job, I'm willing to sit through the training and go to work. And our goal is to be able to churn those out regularly. And then if they need specifically to come back for the certification, again, we'll have those spaced at different intervals throughout the year so that no one's left waiting or we're not creating a bottleneck. The certification that we will offer will come through the Fiber Optic Association and the Fiber Broadband Association and the Fiber School. The one that we just completed was the Fiber Optic Association. We have secured 2 weeks in December for the next one. Currently, what we're doing is we are contracting with the instructor to come in until we get an instructor of our own hired. So we've secured 2 weeks in December. The plan is to split those into 2 offerings. One that will be a public offering that is just open for registration to anyone in the public. The second one will be open to municipalities and counties. I'll speak to this, but I haven't had the opportunity to receive a response from everyone on this. So I can't comment specifically, say this group has agreed, this group has agreed. But the goal is to offer the second week of training free for our partners, say in the city, in the county, the school systems, to add that value back to the community. And the only ask that we're going to have for them is to provide us feedback at the end of it. Let us know, did we hit the mark? Would you endorse this program? Can we be a part of your pipeline for workforce development for your fiber and broadband personnel? Questions on fiber and broadband?
Are you going to go over a marketing plan here in a little bit?
Yes, sir, I am.
So I'm jumping the shark on that one. jumping in?
Just a
Okay,
little
so I don't wanna ruin your flow, baby.
bit.
Okay, so when we talk about posting for an adjunct fiber instructor, is the posting in September, the hiring in September?
Posting is in September. We can do a direct hire.
Can we? Can we speed that up?
If it's a wage position, we can do a direct hire. We can contract with a professional that maybe already has a business and wants to do the part. We're looking at that as an option as well to try to get, more training started, but it's gonna be difficult.
Is there, when we say difficult, why? Because
The demand for these individuals that have these skills and us to be able to meet that pay that they're receiving in the market can be very difficult.
let's talk honestly, then another question. Deputy, can you tell me when they come in and I qualify, I could make this, I could become an adjunct professor, basically, an adjunct instructor. What certifications, qualifications do I need to have?
For us to bring you on in that capacity, you do not have to have any of those three. We will put you through those three, but you've got to have a background in fiber. It's not just someone that has
You
a,
can't just start making them a teacher.
no, sir.
We could.
We could, there'd be no credibility to that. For this,
And that's.
They wouldn't be able to answer a question.
right, for
That's
this.
what I'm
yeah.
getting at.
Yes.
So you want somebody that's in the industry. Have we reached out in anticipation of the posting or the wage position? Have you reached out to companies that are in, like Empower, that are engaged in fiber? I mean, I can make those calls too. But they may know somebody that, they want to have somebody here because I've had two companies tell me, you put them through, we'll hire every single one you get.
Yes.
Well, every single one you graduate, we'll give them a job. And they're talking in $68,000-$70,000 job, a year job. And so, I mean, the time is now. What my fear has always been is that, if we announce we're gonna do something, then here comes PH, we're already doing it. We've had this before. How quickly can we move? And therefore, I guess what is then the wage requirement or the salary requirement for such a position? Is it yearly or is it per class or?
If we do it as wage, then it's gonna be hourly.
I
an
get that,
hourly
but
rate, but it would just be strictly the hours they work. So if they do a training 1 week at 40 hours, that's what they're gonna get
they
paid.
get nothing, they get nothing. They
Right.
do nothing. So it's better to be a salary.
Same with a contractor. You can base a contract on the time that they're teaching.
What's
So
the
per
best way
week.
to approach this?
Right now, the fastest way is going to be probably finding a contractor, is what we've been looking at.
Which is expensive.
Expensive.
What is expensive?
$1,600 a student for contractors. For a week
As a
training.
teacher?
As a teacher, $1,600 a student for
How
a
mu-
week-long training. And that's.
Can you teach me this?
When I said I
I
secured,
will load up this
I'm
class.
no longer retired.
to give you an idea of lead
You
time.
and me, Hubie, will split. Get 10 students, you and I are going to town.
To give you an idea of lead time, the class that was scheduled in August was actually secured back in May, and the one in December, when we had the contractor here, before he left, I said, sit down and give me the first openings that you have. And so in August, his first openings were in December.
So Joe, there's these technology councils throughout the Commonwealth. I think we need to leverage those folks to get.
Yes.
For the marketing, but also to get the people who can teach these courses.
Yes,
Yeah,
okay.
and I have reached out to, local that are in fiber, just to the companies or the organizations, just to see if they have someone that's approaching retirement that may be interested in retiring, but maybe leaving the field, but moving into training and teaching. So I've started those kind of networks, trying to reach out. So if any one of you have contacts in the field, please feel free to reach out.
I will tell you, there's a little bit of hesitancy from business and industry partners when you start asking those questions, because then,
They're losing a guy or man or woman.
right, it's a
No,
lot.
I was gonna go a different way. I would say that because of the military presence, these positions are there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And we need Virginia values veterans. Let's leverage that to get folks into the
Well,
program.
and he brings up a good point too. Didn't we have a veterans program and a micro for broadband?
We're working on, it's in a grant with ODU. And so they're working to develop a brief intro into, this is what broadband is. And then we are contracting with the same organization that's a part of the grant to further develop a new broadband training specifically for, what's it called?
Confined spaces, basically, is what it
Yeah.
is. So it can be applied for, mostly for the naval industry or for, companies that are installing fiber in existing buildings and infrastructure. But the idea there is the way, and that was a grant that was put in place, a year ago, maybe.
Mhm.
And so the grant is called the MEET grant. It's the Maritime Entry to Employment Training. It focuses on welding, pipe fitting, and fiber. The three top career needs when the grant was written. It seems like an odd pairing, but our piece of the pie, so to speak, is the fiber part. And so the 2 weeks that are being developed is 2 weeks of training that, again, is offered free to any citizen throughout the Commonwealth. But then that is a very entry level, and that is something that ODU and NCI will more or less share ownership of. But then the secondary portion of it is a revenue generating training that is fiber, but a specialized fiber that, again, focuses on those confined spaces, those hazardous areas. And that will be offered exclusively by NCI. We have the option in the grant to contract out, to have other companies offer it. So we have a company called QED that we have partnered with to develop the curriculum for us. And the plan is to basically sub out to them because they're out close to the coast, and they can offer it as a proxy for NCI, and we can offer it here.
Okay, so how many do you need is what I've just been asked.
Yes, sir.
So we can reach out, I mean, I can reach out today and to fill, if we were able to fill that post. Because what we were just talking about here is if it's part-time, that you can interchange people, because these people are also
Right.
field managers, directors, then come and teach school, leave, come back, or bring in another one. I mean, is that would that move up? Because I know when we go through the government, we post and everything, it takes forever.
Mhm.
Would that be able to move up the Broadband Academy opening and filling these seats?
Absolutely.
Yes, we can do a direct hire for wage positions, not full-time positions. So if they meet the qualifications and have the experience, then we can do a hire.
And a wage position can eventually, even if we post, become a salary position in the future.
Yes.
But we have that flexibility, especially if we have more than one instructor that comes in and alternates through, right? Or is that good or bad?
With the limitation that they can only do 1,500 hours per fiscal year.
Correct.
And when?
State code mandates that they can't exceed 1,500 hours
Right.
per fiscal year.
Coach mode.
Hey,
No, I get you.
Affordable Care Act.
All right. Okay, well, I think we've got I want to explore as many options as we can rather than just wait for a posting and hope an instructor falls out of the sky.
Yeah.
Especially when also too, these are two companies that would be very interested in hiring people that come out here. And so they might have a vested interest in its instruction and training. So I think if that's all right with you guys, I'll try to
Please,
leverage
sir.
some of these relationships I have and see what we
And
can do.
there's
bring it.
contingent labor contracts that the Commonwealth has that you can get a person quickly, okay, without going through the wage piece. The rates are going to be established as a rate card, and you can easily get a person who can do that job.
Okay.
The companies bid to get the job.
That's a good idea.
Now,
Right.
I
I mean,
would
let's just
recommend-
give ourselves options,
Right, yes.
expedite process, but get the highest quality person in there that we can, that is going to really elevate the Broadband Academy to a level that we expect it and need it to be very quickly, because this is very important on many levels.
I want to just on the, once the program gets going, just a suggestion or recommendation. One of the things we spent a lot of time when I was at AT&T, this communicating why fiber is important to broadband, what they're talking about and what layer you're working with.
Yes.
You know, because we're talking about physical layer stuff, infrastructure layer, and some people confuse fiber training. They're kind of scared away from it because they think you're going to get into the networking component.
Understood.
Right.
Yes, sir.
So if there's an opportunity to film the training,
Mhm.
right, have people actually see what it is, like, and where the connection points and how, and that point, I think that will go a long way in the recruitment. Because I remember when I was talking to some military folks about it, they had overcomplicated it to the router. And I was like, whoa, we're not at that point yet. We're at the physical layer, running the cables. That's why we was a part of the discussion. You said just now about the welding, the piping, and the fiber being a weird combination. Well, that's because in ships, that's what's required. They want one person to be able to do that instead of three.
Gotcha.
So you can weld the pipe, run the fiber through it, because in a ship, space is everything, right? So I think understanding what this is really actually doing is important in the communication out. I think most people understand it, but terms get thrown around synonymously, like broadband and 5G and different things are so any ways that we can help, bolster. I want to see them, like what is actually happening in those trainings. That would be very, I think that could be complimentary to what you're doing.
Yes, sir.
Yes, you missed it.
Yeah.
I've got two companies already responding. What do you need? What do you need? What do you need? We'll bring it to you. So that's,
Yes, sir.
That's great.
those are Virginia companies.
Okay. Oh, that'd be great. And thank you for sharing that, Mr. Jones. You're absolutely right. This training is this is the hands-on portion, as I call it. This is the person physically pulling the lines, that is splicing the fiber together. They may be out in the ditch pulling the lines. They may have a laptop, but for the most part, this is not the person that's going to sit down and completely configure your router. We're starting before that because we're told that's where the workforce need is. Yep.
Exactly.
Again, I hate to be nosy, but when you say training non-certification, again, ASAP, what does that mean? Why aren't we trying to get certificates here, credentials, those kind of things?
That's the go-to-work training. That's the companies have told me, we don't care what certificate. They don't even need a certificate. I just need them to know how to do the job. So as opposed to if somebody walks in and says, I want to take this fiber class, and I say, okay, well, it's a 3-week training. And they say, I start my job next week. We want to be able to offer something that can get them some go-to-work training without having to sit through X amount of hours.
So we'll have the non-certification option and a certification.
Yes, sir. That is correct.
So how do we prevent
Everybody. from taking-
backlash when the person goes out to the job and clearly doesn't know how to do anything after they've told the employer that they can't?
Yes, sir.
So you don't want that to come back and
Right.
be NCI
Bad
giving
product.
this unqualified person.
Yes, sir. There will be an exam to include written and hands-on at the end of it to ensure that the individual has not necessarily mastered, because it's not a mastery level training. It is more of an introduction level training, but there will be built in some sort of benchmark or measurable point at the end of it so that the individual knows, hey, this is your competency level. This is where you're at. And that training, when we market it and we speak to companies, it will be very clear to them that this is not a certification. This is an individual that, just like any other college course, they can come and take the course and they'll get either an A, B, or C, and that will let you know their general competency on the things that are included in this training. Other questions on fiber broadband? I'm gonna skip over to Star Telehealth. If we go to closed session, I'll share some things with y'all on that. Update on the Center for Advanced Film Manufacturing. So we're still in the planning stages with Patrick and Henry and Eastman. The last meeting we had, we were aiming for a January 2024 launch, but a lot of this is on Eastman's timetable. They will be the primary employer that will either provide us with trainees that are already on their payroll or ones that are looking to join the company. And so our machine on our part, what we've already done, we've had the machine serviced. We're in the process of completing updates and maintenance, replacing the consumables, updating software and firmware and things such as that. We recently entered into a partnership. You have a copy of the MOU in your folder there with the Piedmont Regional Criminal Justice Training Academy. This is a group that is local here to Martinsville, Henry County. They train individuals that are looking to get into the law enforcement field. So on our second floor in room 207, we have recently had installed a Milo simulator. And what this is I encourage all of you, if you haven't seen one, to stop by on your way out on the second floor. This is 6.5 foot tall. It is 180-degree wraparound projection screen. And an individual that is going through training will be a part of a simulation that can range anything from responding to a domestic dispute, a mass shooting in a public place, a DUI with a non-cooperating individual. And the goal of this is for individuals to go through this training without actually being put at the risk on the side of the road in the domestic situation without being properly prepared for it. So it is not a shooting simulator. A lot of people, when they start hearing law enforcement simulations, they're thinking this is a gun range video game. While it does have that capability, the point of this, coming directly from Piedmont Regional Criminal Justice, is to teach an individual in law enforcement how to resolve a situation without ever having to pull out a firearm. So that is the goal. It is a de-escalation simulator more than it is a shooting simulator. That equipment has been installed. The train the trainer is scheduled for next week. Piedmont Regional will handle all of the execution of the training. They will have primary registration opportunities for it to begin with. So they'll start running their people through it first. And then we are working with them in best case scenario, winter, meaning December 31st or sooner. Worst case scenario, spring. For me, that's January to March timeframe. A lot of that is going to depend on the availability, but we are looking to offer that to our local municipalities and counties as well for any new training or professional development, continuing education that might be needed.
Do we have to get DCJS certification?
Do we have to get it? Not that I'm aware of, no, sir. Again, this is all done under the umbrella and ownership of Piedmont Regional. So we are not awarding the credentials or.
Okay, I thought that we were initially partnering with them to put it on, but then we were looking forward to doing it ourselves.
No, we will never be the ones. So we will market and help recruit for it. But
We're just
Piedmont Regional,
providing a facility, not a program.
we are housing the program. Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, that is correct.
all right.
That's a good question.
Do we get compensated?
It will eventually develop into a revenue generating model. Yes, sir.
How would that
For
revenue
the
be generated?
facility. For renting the
Rent.
facility.
Yes, sir. Yes.
And it could be that other regional criminal justice academies would take advantage of that.
Yes, sir. Yes, that's correct. Our cyber safe initiative. So in spring of last year, we hosted in partnership with VDOE and VISTI a cybersecurity training for K-12 systems. We set up basically mock versions of their networks on a smaller scale. Training had technical aspects to it for the IT personnel, but it also had higher level aspects to it for anyone from superintendents to assistant superintendents, district personnel, system personnel. And there were breakout sessions that included speaking engagements from legal experts. What are you legally required to do when you have a ransomware attack? Communication and marketing experts. What do you share with the public? How soon do you share it? Law enforcement. How do you report that? Who do you call? At what level? And so we had a huge turnout for that. We had 10 different schools that were represented, 110 people, I think, from those schools that participated. Out of that, VDOE approached us and said, this is great. You all have a statewide footprint. How do we take it all across the state? So in response to that, we have prepared what we call the Cyber Safe Initiative. Our next one coming up will be the within the Shenandoah school systems. They are also looping in some of their EMS and firefighters. It was their request to do that. And that will be delivered on their location on October 3rd. The goal from there is to, again, just start mapping it out. We have 3 lined up so far. Again, the first one being Shenandoah, but we see this as being something that will initially be handled by some of our in-house IT folks. It's a one-day type thing, but as it builds, we will look to bring on someone that will kind of be the owner of that initiative.
You see this as being revenue generating?
This is not, no, sir. This is done at the request of DOE. Yes, sir. So we are not providing, we're not charging the school system for this. Degree opportunities. There's an MOU that was recently signed. We want to make a joint statement with a university partner on this. So, I'm not putting in writing the name of it, but there are 2 new degree offerings that we will be bringing to Martinsville. We are working on that public announcement with the university partner. The MOU has been signed and we're excited about it. It is a previous partner that has come back to the board and said that they like the direction NCI is going and they would like to basically join the team again. So we're excited about that. At our next meeting, before the next board meeting, you will see a public announcement coming out about that. So we could probably speak a little more at length about it. So. Some enrollment updates for you. So these are from July 1 until current. I will say that there are a few of the universities that have said that they are still technically in their add drop period. So this may fluctuate one or two here and there, but those are currently the number of degree students that are enrolled with our partnerships. A total of 35 students, our largest, of course, being the Longwood University Elementary Education Program.
And let me ask you a question here again, and I'm very marketing oriented at this point. We have a huge need here in Southside, Southwest Virginia for counseling. And I don't know how much need we have for strategic communication, but we have a huge need for counseling. Is there any coordination with Bluefield for marketing or trying to bring that number up into, say, the elementary education number range?
My conversation with all of our university partners is to allow us to be an arm of your recruitment office, to let us help to recruit, because every student here is a student for them. So we actively, almost aggressively sometimes, please give us your marketing materials. We will beat the pavement for you to help recruit. Some are more.
Can we recruit without their consent and cooperation, collaboration?
No, sir.
So we can't go out there and put on this billboard over here. We offer counseling, an MA in counseling in Bluefield University, scholarships available. We couldn't do it without collaboration.
Not without them approving the design and such.
Because we don't own the student.
Right, but have we approached them on that?
We have approached all of our.
I mean, I know you're
university
saying
partners on that.
generally,
Yes,
but-
sir. We have approached all of our university partners on that. Yes, sir.
All right.
One of those degrees will be a bachelor level of social services that will contribute to some of the,
I mean, that's huge.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We have such a need, you know, and especially with the increased mental health, especially with children, the pediatric nature of that. Opioid addiction recovery, our social services is bursting at the seams with people needing services, and is at its minimum in terms of, you know, staff and ability to do something about it, because it can't fill positions. And some of the positions they can fill as Rendos, because we deal with this every year, don't pay enough, or we put too many clinical hour requirements before they can become, you know, a licensed social worker. And we don't allow other people from other states with LSWs to come over, and we make them start all over. I mean, we just hamstring ourselves. And if there's any way that we can make that a priority, I know Mr. Hall and I, in talking to the governor's office, was intrigued on what we could do in terms of opioid counseling, creating opioid counselors, those kind of things. I mean, we need to not only create opportunities for employment breaking cycle poverty, but also, just as we do very well in bringing elementary school preschool teachers into the workforce, we need to be thinking about that as well with all these other things we're doing, because there is a real need here.
I think we're kind of hamstrung because we can't offer a degree. There is no revenue sharing with this.
Right, it goes to the,
So some quick question on this, and just something for the board to think about, I think. So as you were just stated, we don't own the student, right? 2, we have to get their permission to advertise in Morrinsville. But I've continuously heard a metric been placed on this institution about enrollment. So if that's not our metric, why, I've seen enrollment multiple times come up. So I just want to kind of walk through that again. We don't own a student. We have to gain their permission to advertise in our city.
Yes.
And
we don't
we
keep
are
them up.
held to their enrollment metric. And we don't get credit for the enrollment in the program in Bluefield. I think that's something not for you to think about. I think that's something for the board to think about in our messaging and metrics that we may have asked of you in the past on this particular thing. Because I agree, the program, the metric that might be to us is the partnerships in the programs. But I think the community has always focused on enrollment in people. So I just wanted to make sure we clarified that a little bit. Is that your report? I love that you put the metric in here.
Yes.
But I want to make sure that, you know, we kind of clarify who really gets credit for that metric.
Right.
Yes, understood.
Right? Okay.
We do report these into Chev as well as the Secretary of Ed. So it is something that we are asked to provide. But again, we're at the mercy of our university partners as far as we can only do so much to help recruit and build up those programs. We have seen some of the frostiness, so to speak, start to thaw with some of those relationships, but I get the sense sometimes, this is Joe Sumner speaking, this is not on behalf of NCI, but I get the sense that it's going to take a little bit of time to build back some of that trust before they finally say, all right, you can, here's the keys to the marketing material. You go forth and help us out. Longwood participated recently in the Smith River Music Fest. They participated in that recruitment event with us, so they set up right next to us, and we kind of did everything hand in hand.
Well, what's holding them back?
Yeah, I don't understand what's the.
I mean, this is free
It's
Well,
exactly.
I would argue
for
that
the vessel.
I'd argue that NCI is in a place from a stability standpoint with leadership at the top that certainly will help with the relationships as we move forward. I mean, we've
Thank you,
Had an
Ken, for that
interim at the
compliment. I
helm.
appreciate you talking about me that way.
we had an interim ED at the helm.
Oh, I know, no.
Yeah.
And he's here and
So-
he's
Yeah, so I think that
rocking.
naturally helps the relationships.
We'll make it naturally help faster, okay?
Yes, sir, we'll do. Workforce training enrollment update. GWO, Star Telehealth, fiber broadband, FAA, the fiber broadband, point out that was, again, our internal folks there on those 16. So there were actually 16 credentials that the 4 individuals earned. But the others on there are external. And again, that's from July 1 to 2023.
Oh, really? That's
Yep.
just from the middle of the summer.
That's from the middle of the summer, yes.
So 131 credentials in that quarter.
Yes, that's correct.
And how much is revenue is generated from that?
That'll be on my report.
Yeah, that'll be on hers. I can tell you for GWO, that's $1,800 a student. Your Start Telehealth, that's gonna be $50 per credential awarded, so.
Like $50.
Because we share.
Oh, okay.
We're a portal for that.
Okay.
The trust certificate is non-revenue generating. FAA will not allow us to charge for that based on what I have understood. Marketing updates.
Yeah, there we go.
All right.
Now we're talking.
Tell me if I get too far in the weeds.
Don't.
All right, here's a general overview of our coverage. There's some overlap, so I'll break down on the next slides. It will highlight each area so that you can see the true coverage. But I will note that some of these coverage areas extend beyond the borders of Virginia down into North Carolina and such. I did not include those, but I can follow up if you would like to see how far it extends beyond Virginia. What we have tried to do is identify specific areas and avenues for marketing. I will say that having Holly on board has been incredible. Basically, we just tried to hold down the fort for a month or so during the transition period. Olivia has come on now. Olivia partnered with Eric internally and with Holly externally as a contractor. They have done a phenomenal job of kind of revamping and figuring out where do we need to go next with marketing to make sure that we're spending the money wisely and we're hitting the right populations that we're looking for. We have done television commercials that you should already see airing, but they will definitely over the course of the next year. Some are general evergreen type commercials. Some are specifically focused on fiber. Some are specifically focused on GWO. So 3 different categories there.
Do you have a way to track those?
Track them meaning.
No, I watch TV. I see something about fiber. I want to come to the academy. I mean, are you going to be able to track how we voted these fish?
When we receive, when someone calls and asks, we ask them, where did you hear about us? Was it a specific marketing measure? WSLS does provide us with some metrics, such as open rate, click rate, things like that.
Internet.
Yes. Cardinal News, again, 3 different categories, general, fiber, GWO. So combination of website as well as top banners and side scrolling for their newsletters.
Isn't that called the Ren Williams magazine? Just
I think it was Williams National News Network.
Radio and digital, specifically targeting GWO. You can see they're centered around the coast where the majority of the action is happening. Coincidentally enough, we also tried to focus this in an area where to our knowledge, there are only 2 other institutions that offer any form of GWO in our field of operations, if you will. One being a community college, one being a college. They do not offer anything near the level that we do. One of them actually has to contract. They don't have their own person in-house. Anytime they offer it, they have to contract to bring an outsider in. So we tried to specifically focus on an area where we knew there was a need. So that's the reason for it being way out there on the.
Okay, so and in this, your target audience is that individual candidate rather than that corporation?
Yes, sir. A little bit of both, but yes, sir. More of an individualized focus on that.
Okay.
Commercials with WRIC, specifically focused around fiber. Not hard to see. I got two little yellow stars, fiber billboards.
That's 64?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Interstate 64.
These were strategically chosen. These were not just what's available. We look for high traffic areas. Whenever we scope out the billboards, they provide us so many views per day based on the metrics of how much traffic flows in that area.
Digital.
Yes, sir. These are digital billboards. Yes.
And that's what you got there, 664. And
So how do we know that billboard
58.
is effective?
Again, marketing is one of the things I've always been told is very difficult to measure. The only mechanism that we have in place to truly know how many people that reached is when they call and sign up for GWO to ask them, where did you hear about us? Where did you see this advertised?
Hubie, I'm putting you in charge of driving to each billboard and count how many seconds it's up.
All of these marketing measures that you see here were done prior to the end of the fiscal year. So these were all done prior to June 30th. Since then, with our package for marketing with WSLS, it also came with a pretty comprehensive market study of our measures and of the area. So there are some changes to the market plan moving forward based on what we have learned. One of which is billboards are great, but they're probably not going to be the most effective way to spend the money.
Right.
So there's some changes that we're going to be making.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. That's where I was going.
Hubie equals not fan of billboards.
The goal was to make sure that we were covering every opportunity, just a little here, a little there, kind of, are we in print? Are we in digital? Are we on billboards? Are we on the radio? Just making sure that we were getting the word out any way that we could. But we've since, of course, learned there's a better way to do it, picking the ones that we know are going to be the most effective based on what the experts have told us.
So
And
I
it's
see
an
a lot
additional
of,
one, right?
Sir?
Are we on race trucks?
Yes, we were on the race truck. Yes, we certainly
you
were.
could be on an open wheel modified. We are on a race truck. So I see
That goes
no
like this.
attempt to go Northern Virginia down the valley.
We made an attempt to cover the entire Commonwealth. This is just based on service
Eastern
areas.
Shore's got blanks, and then you've got Northern Virginia and then the valley.
Yes. Again,
Right.
we based on service areas and be very blunt with you, into the fiscal year. And I am not a marketing expert, so I knew this had to be done before the fiscal year was up.
Right.
We did the best we could, but I knew that bringing in somebody that had more expertise than me could probably figure out a better way to do it.
I don't know. I mean, I just didn't know if there was a method to your madness because,
Cover the whole thing.
we had a full throat discussion about successes and failures in the community college place platform. And one of the community colleges that is successful, of course, is Northern Virginia Community College, and a lot because of the reliance on cyber and tech and that and broadband and data centers, and I could go on and on and on. Seems like to me there could be some correlation where we could tie into what that success is to translate to our success, at least in the broadband, maybe not the GWO, but.
And that's where the Northern Virginia Tech Council is shaping what the curriculum is. So these tech councils exist across the Commonwealth. So I think that if we can reach there, those are the employers that are going to need these skill sets.
Yep.
Okay. Yes.
I agree with Hubie. I haven't disagreed with him all day.
Have you connected with Northern Virginia Community College? Yeah.
No, ma'am, I have not.
I mean, I have a connection. We have a partnership with them.
Mhm.
And so I work closely. I'm happy to make a connection with Steve. He's like the VP for he creates partnerships. He's a great guy.
Yes, ma'am, I
You
would
guys
certainly
want-
appreciate that.
I, as chairman, order you guys to start texting on a
Yeah.
daily basis.
Yeah, he's a good guy and yeah, I think he would be a good person to talk to, start the
Very good.
discussion.
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
But
Yeah,
be careful of all your partners because they will eat your arm.
Spoken like a true public institution, guys. All right.
as mentioned, we did a marketing research project with Elevate. This was mostly focused around the WSLS viewing area, but we did make specific requests for some of our counties in our area that did not necessarily fall within their viewing area. So they included Patrick County and a couple of others, because we specifically knew that we have the potential to pull students from that area. So this was conducted in July 2023. Again,
That's in
after
your packet, right?
that, a copy of that is in your packet. The presentation, that kind of the report out is in the packet. Along with it came just an incredible tool. They call it Flash Tool. Essentially what it is pages and pages of pivot charts, not Venn diagrams, pivot charts. We can drill down to the point to see what do male Caucasians between the ages of 12 and 16 think of NCI when they hear it on the radio, and then we can change that. What do they think when they see it on YouTube? Is it a positive impression? Is it a negative impression? So it's an incredibly powerful tool. Livy and her team have already started kind of digging into it, figuring out the best avenues for marketing approach. Some takeaways that really kind of rose to the top that are priority. You need to do this no matter what else you do. These are the things they really hammered that we need to focus on. Improving our YouTube channel. Part of that was because the study overwhelmingly showed that YouTube was the marketing avenue where a lot of the people that participated in this got their information from. Not necessarily YouTube videos. Sometimes it's the little 5-second YouTube commercial that pops up before the clip they really want to watch. But we were advised that we need to really beef up and polish up our YouTube channel. Additionally, improve the website, increase. Ma'am?
No, that I completely
Yes.
agree. Yes.
And Holly and Olivia and their teams, again, they've already started on it. So they're making some progress on that. Hope to see some real significant changes soon.
And the social media sites
Yes, sir.
to drive those numbers up, because I've been kind of watching that and it really has not gone up.
Yes.
So how do we get people when they attend, how do we get them to follow?
Yeah.
Or even if they just called on an inquiry,
Right.
everybody should have that click here
Yeah.
to become a member of our social media site to follow us as part of their email.
Yes, you are absolutely right. Did you make a note of that? We'll put that in our signature lines for the institution. That is a great idea. Some things that Holly, some wisdom that Holly brought to the team was, she said, you know, in your social media posts, when you're taking a picture of a class that's happening, specifically tag every individual in there, because then their followings have access to it and start to see it, as opposed to just saying, we did fiber today, here's a picture. Specifically linking and tagging to them. So those are some things that
Well, I don't know about the individuals, but certainly the groups that would be interested in that type of class.
Yes.
So if
I mean, I
there
got
is a,
10,000 followers for Senator Bill Stanley page. Just tag me every time. I mean, you're trying to reach those people,
Yes.
Yeah.
except for the,
yeah, but
Except for
the
the
individuals
florist
that go,
class. Okay,
if
leave me
you
off that
say, these are the groups that you should be interested in, then you tag those groups and they get you indirectly,
Yes.
if you will, versus
Yeah.
you got 50 people on it. It's this great big
Yeah.
thing of
So
following.
many times.
Okay.
here's another thing, and back to marketing. You're trying, and at least in not so much the GWO, but I believe that we have a captive audience and an audience that we should be serving, which is in Martinsville High School, the Bulldogs, which is in, 3 or 4 high schools out here, 16-year-olds that know they can take a 3-week course in broadband and go get a job, who aren't college ready or college capable or wanting to go to college or however you identify them as. I mean, that is a target rich environment in my belief. And if we can figure out a way for scholarships, then, because these kids aren't going to be able to pay the class course fees, but men and women are sitting in there that are saying, what am I going to do with my life? And you say, here's an option. You can get a certificate, a credential program, get an interview immediately and hired. I mean, remember, don't forget in DCC, where they kind of turned with ILR and their success was the capstone program. Where in the capstone program, I mean, the number's not huge, but every single person in capstone gets an interview or a job offer. And we want that to be, we've talked about quality, making sure we're graduating quality students, we're putting out quality, we're creating a workforce pipeline that is of quality and potential employees. But we have a target audience that I've not seen in any of these that I think is easy, close by, doesn't cost much. They're not into billboards. It's actual human touch. And we also have a vehicle with our partnership with the Wendell Scott Foundation. And this falls into, you know, when we talk about the kind of education that they urge, I mean, I think it falls right in there. I think we need to see, and I think we owe it to the region first, Henry County, Martinsville, Patrick County, you know? I mean, Wendell Scott STEM, this is a STEM focus, and it's not, I think it doesn't cost a lot, and your ROI is not only tangible, but intangible.
I think the other thing that I would add to that is teachers. I mean, I think teachers are conduits to kind of guide their students. So, you know,
Guidance
making
counselors
sure
even?
that guidance counselors, you know, getting a relationship with science, math, you know, English. I mean, teachers that can kind of guide the students to say, listen, you're interested in something, you know, NCI is a great opportunity for you. I think when it comes to social media, yes, 100%. I mean, I think it's one, you need to be on top of it. I mean, you need to have a resource that is able to supply content. And I do love the personal storytelling. I mean, there has to be that story of the student, of the person that benefited from coming to SCI, and for, you know, the high school students to be able to see that.
Yeah.
That it's just, I can do this, you know, that type of thing, which I think 100% agree. Wendell Scott, that partnership would be incredibly helpful to do that.
Cam.
No, I mean, I think if you look at, you know, our 4 and 2 year partners and higher ed centers and the way that some people utilize social media, you're really not selling signups for a particular thing, but you're letting the stories drive someone's interest in wanting to participate. So like if you're doing stories about the WIN program, if you're doing stories about things that are happening in the building, I think that then drives people to feel connected to what's happening in the building or out in the field, which could drive traction that way.
Yes.
I think
Good idea.
the sea survival is something that's so unique that you could just do a segment on that, you know, because it, like you said, it's unique. We have an outdoor facility. You're not jumping in the pool.
Right.
Just the scenic around that, the Martinsville, Henry County area in the fall lights up with the trees, right? But then if someone has a story about their life being saved because of that program, that gets somebody to sign up, right? Because that's what we're really doing here. You're supporting the mission of saving a life. So if you have somebody that could start like that, those type of, I think social media is starting to move into a visual, like the video, the short videos that come with. But if we could connect the dots with that, I love the Sea Survival program. I tell everybody that I know, like, we have a Sea Survival program in a quarry in Martinsville that's unique, nowhere else in the country. If I could point them to somewhere and there's somebody saying, hey, this Sea Survival program brought me back home and I'm able to keep working and be with my family, that, I think that's a gripping story that people would be like, I understand why they have that program at NCI.
I want to take it. I mean, it's cool.
Yeah, Japan.
We'll sign you up.
Okay, sorry.
Yes.
I've talked to Senator,
Not yet.
Senator,
Delegate Willie.
I've talked to Newport News Shipbuilding multiple times about Patrick Henry and Barham and News NCI, and they're ready to suck as many welders and pipe fitters and cable providers and everything over there, which I don't love. But if you're looking for a core, like a partner, they told me they got like 7 or 8 ships to build. It's like $8 billion. So they're gonna need as many people as they possibly can.
Okay, yes, would love to. If you don't mind, I'll follow up with you.
Yeah, well, we had an MOU with Newport News Shipbuilding for the digital 3D shipbuilding program that they can never quite get off the ground from Tidewater Community College and Dominion. Old Dominion University could not work together to get that thing off the ground. They're still kind of puttering around. They have, as Newport News Shipbuilding said, they have meetings about meetings. And I begged them, I said, just bring it here.
Yeah.
And that was one of our credential programs that was supposed to go online 4 years ago. And they just never could get that thing off the ground. And now they're even saying, do we need it anymore? Have we opted out by not having it? They're looking at different ways where that program for training and for even repair and manufacturing is different on its face.
Is there any interest in going back to SHIP to see if we can provide direct programs?
Well, sure. I mean, I wrote it in the statute that if something around us is not offering a program, we can teach it ourselves. We can do that ourselves.
Yeah.
But it's when it's not being offered, right?
Our challenge is that, and this is where my statement about the partnerships come in, right? That if we go to certain partners, they're going to start offering stuff and then that cuts us out.
Past is prologue, Hubie. That's been our problem. I mean, right down to the lineman program. And I was looking at the lineman program and I got to say, and I was talking about this with Richard last night. We had a lineman program that could have gone online. We already had a partner with an electrical company, a co-op that was more than willing to assist with instruction, students. And, we announced it. We would have done it for about 125. Is that about right? 125. And they got in our supposed community college partner announces it, gets money for $750,000, and they got 12 students. They put it in Patrick County. Bought a big truck, spent a lot of money, and they got 12 students. And so, yeah, that's why, quite frankly, what I like about the two things that we have right now, one is something they cannot offer, and the other is something they don't have the capacity to offer. And so, as I've argued or had in discussions with the governor's office, that those are cornerstones, which allow us to do a lot of other things in the middle too, that others don't offer. So.
The last time I was talking to Newport News Shipbuilding, they really said the biggest thing that we don't need, or we don't have, and I can't find it out in the Commonwealth of the country, is welding engineering programs. Said there was only 2 schools in the country that did it. And so it felt like that's a more technical, higher end type of training that you don't need welding equipment, I believe, to do, but we have a big welding program next door. And so it feels like that would be the step up if we are able to do a direct program.
There ain't that many students in the Patrick Henry welding program. Yeah, there's 6.
Oh, okay.
It's not that many. All right. Anything else?
Just to close it out, just if you happen to be in the area, I know it's hard to see, but you'll have a copy of. If you ever happen to be in the area for any things, here's some community events that we're doing, whether out and about or whether hosting them. Some cool things I'd like to point out to you is our first robotics team is they have an off-season event coming up. I believe it's in Roanoke on the upcoming Saturday. We are hosting what we are calling the CAPS program, Cyber Awareness Program for Seniors. Thank you, Mr. Jones, for helping us to put that together. This was born out of the lifelong learning program. So, I know that if I get a call from my parents are in their late 70s. If I get a call from my parents after about 7 o'clock at night, it's probably because they're having trouble with Netflix or Facebook. And the reality is there are a lot of grandparents now that are raising grandchildren. And with the pandemic and what it did to educational delivery, you can imagine when you've got a kindergartner that can work their way around an iPad better than grandma or grandpa can. So this kind of event, more than training, was developed as a way to bring in members of the senior community and sit down with them, provide kind of some small group and one-on-one, just familiarization, awareness. Hey, don't click on that. They're not going to mail you $1,000. Don't give your bank account information to, the Prince of New Zealand. So we're excited about that. We're gonna bring groups in from we've partnered with King's Grant and a couple of other organizations in the area. We think it's going to be a big success. Also coming up, we have the United Way Dollars and Cents. This is where we partner with United Way. We host it here. They bring in different high schools and they will come in for half a day And they'll basically identify a career. And then from there are different stations set up throughout the lecture hall where they will learn what are the educational requirements for that career. How much money is that going to cost? What financing options are available? They'll even go through certain simulations where, hey, if you want to live in this community, here's your general cost of living. And they'll quickly realize that, you know, if I want to have this type of career, here's what it's going to cost me. And if I want to live in this part of the Commonwealth, here's the kind of income that I'm going to need to be able to achieve. And so they'll kind of back it up to figure out, is the job that I've looked at, is that really going to give me the lifestyle that I'm hoping to have? We had a big turnout for it last year. Had between 200, I think, to 300 students there. So we're going to be running that one again soon coming up here. Yes.
What about race week? I don't see it on there.
Race week is not on there. Race week is going to be the last week of October. And I don't know why it's not on there. I thought I might have made another slide that was just for it and I forgot to put it in there. Sorry about that. Race week is coming up last week of October and we are partnering with Wendell Scott Foundation. We're going to have an evening that is going to be legendary conversations of racing. Are we at a point where we can say, okay.
Who we anticipate? Yeah.
Yes. So Warwick and his team have potentially secured Mr. Richard Petty to come
The
that night.
king.
That's king.
So we'll be hosting
Wow.
Mr. Petty as well as Mr. Frank Scott, I believe it is, who
And
was
Eddie Cobb.
who was the first African-American pit crew chief. He worked with his father, Mr. Wendell. And so they're going to have a panel that will be moderated where they will share out stories, kind of, again, legendary conversations during their careers in racing. And then at the end, we will also invite Mr. Clay Campbell and a couple others for kind of a question and answer session, open it up to the entire group.
And the moderator is?
The moderator is Mr. Jones
Tentatively
himself.
by me.
Oh, outstanding.
The Big
Gotta check the
E.
schedule.
So,
And then I'll bring my race team, Sadler Stanley Racing Open Wheel Modifieds. We have our race on Thursday night for the race weekend, Sunday's race weekend. Every single person is invited. We'll have a suite. Want to see everybody here, employees of NCI. You can bring, if you got a family member you want to bring with you. If you've never been to a race before, this is the Wheeling Modified Open Wheel Modified Championship. We have two of the most famous race car drivers that drive for our two cars. That is NASCAR Hall of Famer Bobby Labonte and one of the top 75 heralded drivers of all time in NASCAR that was announced this year. And the other is Daytona 500 two-time champion and legend Ryan Newman. Ryan is also one of the top 75 all-time greats of NASCAR, as elected by the NASCAR community. And so they drive our cars. Labonte drives his famous 18 and Ryan drives the number 39 for us of the Sadler Stanley Racing. So we'll have pit passes available. Every year we invite NSBE to come and then we have them have a personal tour of the pits and they talk engineering and engines and occupations that can be had in the motorsports world. And we did that last year. We're doing it again and we invite them, we buy their tickets and
What's the date?
Hmm?
The date.
Why do you ask me dates? It's the Thursday. When is the
The
race?
26th.
So-
Says the modifieds are on the 26th.
Thank you.
The event that we're doing here at NCI will be on the 25th.
Okay.
So Wednesday and then Thursday and then Friday is qualifying
Mhm.
with trucks racing on the truck Saturday.
Truck Saturday, Xfinity Saturday. No, it's no trucks. It's Xfinity.
Just Xfinity
Yeah,
and then the race.
trucks have
on
already
Sunday.
run here in the spring, so they don't come back in the fall. Because we were going to put the NCI logo on Raja Cruz's truck, like Wendell Scott Foundation did for Richmond, but we couldn't do it because they don't have that. So I'll probably stick the New College Foundation, or New College Institute symbol. Sorry, that wasn't even Freud, man. Well, I'll probably put that on the side, TV side of our cars. But want everybody to come. If you've never been to a race before, open wheel modifieds are like the most fun because they go fast, 650 horsepower. Open wheel, just like you see in IndyCar, but they're probably the best looking car ever. So you can go to SadlerStanleyRacing.com and see our cars, but you all are invited. Never say a lawyer didn't do something for you for free.
That includes me too.
Yeah, it includes you, Am.
Oh, man.
I hope you come on, but let me know so I can make sure that, we fortify the suite with the famous Martinsville pink hot dog.
Yeah.
And and some other food. And so food and drink will be there and we'd love to have you there. It's our celebration at the end of the season. So it's the last race open wheel modified championship of the season. So, and it's not like 60,000 or 100,000 people out there. You get about 15,000. So it's easy to get in and get out. You're
Yeah,
not
the
sitting in
Indy
traffic all
500
day.
is crazy.
Yeah. And it's at night, so it's cool.
Oh, nice.
But you're inside, so it's not cold. And
Is the
Should
Sunday
be
race
fun.
at night?
Sunday races during the day. So come on out. We'd love to have you. Just let me know or tell them and you give me a list. And of course, all the staff is invited as well. Didn't I do that last year? Just you, you were the
Me.
staff. Okay, well, you all are invited, so let me know. Love to have you.
Thank you.
And you get to meet the drivers. Oh, yeah, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Branding. I think it's time that we seriously consider rebranding our name. And so I'm gonna appoint a special subcommittee headed by Eric Jones to handle the branding question. Here's why it becomes even more imperative, and I think Eric and I kind of talked about this when we opened. There's another new college institute in Florida.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, dude, I mean, I think we need to have a real positive, great name, and I think we need to be thinking about that. I don't think, and I talked to the people that wrote the legislation, they ever contemplated that this would be called New College Forever. They all said it. Now, it was supposed to be kind of we didn't have a name, so we just called it a new college. And it also was, in the history of it, when the Harvest Foundation, urged the creation of this institute, what they were trying to do was convince the Commonwealth of Virginia that we needed another public four-year institution. And the General Assembly said, we've had enough of that. And they weren't going to do it. And that's why, all the history that we've had kind of brought us to this point. So, we are still carrying what should have been a temporary name. And I know Delegate Les Adams was in charge. I'm going to ask that Delegate Adams, Delegate Williams, and Mr. Jones kind of put your heads together and talk about branding and what can be done. Delegate, do you accept? Is that right?
Absolutely.
And, look, I would lean on any kind of expertise that you can. Holly has got, great expertise in the world of public media and public forums. So get together and see. And I really want an answer. And I'd like it not too far out in the future.
So there's an interim step that can be done. Search engine optimization. You can go to Google and buy where you appear in the search.
Oh, really?
So I would suggest that we do that until you guys figure out what our new name is going to be. So that we appear before New College, Florida.
My question, always is too, and Emmy, you might know, because you're the guy that's been there when this happened. We are statutorily created institute. I guess there'd have to be a change in the statute, would there not, or could we?
Sure. Yeah.
Because the statute governs us, refers to a new college institute, and if we name ourselves Emmett Hanger U, that is a great Hanger U. I Hanger U coming in here today.
If you're thinking about names, I'm thinking Martinsville Institute of Technology, MIT.
There you go.
Available, right?
All right, you're appointed to the committee. But, I know you guys have done a lot for us before, but I think it's really important. We're going in a new direction, but we're no longer new in that sense of what it was supposed to be. And I think there's a way that we can honor, there's got to be a way that we honor where we stand here in this historic block, where we stand in terms of the rich history that Martinsville, Henry County, Danville, the whole area presents to us, and what we can do with it. And so that people say, because let's be honest, some of those articles didn't do great for our name. And when Emmett, you and I and Ren go to the halls of the General Assembly, that's what they remember most times is those articles, not about what we're doing. So I think that helps us, and I think it's important.
I think your committee should also look, if you want at to be broad, the mission itself, redefining the mission perhaps. Bring more
Statutorily.
clarity to what we're really supposed to be doing, which I think initially was just to kind of prop up Martinsville, unemployment, give opportunities for students in this region to get higher education more readily.
Well, and well, I can run through the history because I know at least that, Senator Hanger. We used to have the highest per capita percentage of college graduates in Virginia. We also at that time were the industrial leader of Virginia after the Industrial Revolution. We had the highest per capita income. We had the highest rate of graduation from high school. We had the best hospitals. And one would think, well, when was that? Well, that was as not long, like in the 70s and the 80s. It's not long ago. And NAFTA and CAFTA changed all that. And so what they wanted to do, and of course, Roscoe Reynolds and my good friend Ward Armstrong, we were talking about this, and you know, they said by the time they were there, I think the number was 11% of residents here in Martinsville, Henry County were college graduates. It had dropped that far. 11 to 13%, I think was the number he gave me. And that, I'm doing this off the top of my head. So this was trying to increase the number of college graduates, which they believe, one, was good for the community, two, would retain people in the community to bring in the jobs that they needed to replace the ones that were taken up by the federal government through NAFTA and CAFTA. So that was the purpose. And I think, Senator, you're exactly right. You know, and I've been mulling this about and even talking with Richard Hall about this, is a statutory change to make us more nimble. I don't think we fall under the auspices, nor should we ultimately, of the Secretary of Education. Because I don't think right now what we were talking about doing is what New College was this conduit, this platform, which was cutting edge, which was bringing the classroom in through a television screen, through technology. Online classes weren't very popular when this started. I mean, weren't really that established. Now everybody offers them. And even in the blended rate, I mean, I can roll out of bed, get an undergrad, a master's, my law degree, everything except become a dentist or a doctor. But, you know, and I never have to take off my pajamas to get those degrees. So what we have to do is offer something different. And I think you are right. We are different. You know, we have that ability to offer, I mean, we should be, and it says it in the statute, we should be more focused on workforce development, which is more than what they all can be. And that way we don't keep getting entangled in competitions with educational institutions that think we're treading on in their turf.
Yeah, but you gotta get the community college to think that they don't have a monopoly on workforce development.
Hey, Hubie, I've created a new subcommittee and you are in charge of communicating that to our community college partners.
I'll have a good relationship with them.
Well, go ahead then, yes. Oh, that's right, you're on the board, aren't you?
So I was on the PH board for what, 6 years?
Yeah.
So I can be the liaison if that's.
That
what
would be
we're doing.
great. All right, appointed.
Mr. Chairman,
Anointed.
as you're leaving this subject
Getting
area,
all this
I'd say the
responsibility,
last
Randy.
hour plus that we've had with our executive director putting forth is some of the best dialogue I've heard since I've been on this board, with getting everybody involved in a conversation with the detail that's presented.
Good
Good
job.
stuff.
Roll.
Yeah, well done. All right, any other questions? I've been hogging. Okay, let's move on to the next thing so we can, everybody's got a ride to go home to. We got the revised budget 24. Miss Deputy Director / Finance Director.
I do it all. It's
For the time
okay.
she does. I don't know, it's like a whoopee. I don't know that I could do without you being in charge of the finance. Anybody had a whoopee? A blue blanket?
A blanket. and
A blanket.
your child.
I love being compared to a worn-out blanket.
It was like the most secure thing ever. If the world's crashing down around you, you have the blue blanket, everything's fine. All right, fine, whatever. Ms.
Thank you,
Reed,
sir. Thank
yes.
you.
What an intro.
So what I have presented is a revised general fund budget and then the non-general fund budget, which we did not get to discuss at our last meeting. And I want to talk about them separately. So what the general fund budget is you've got the actual expenditures that are through 8/31. Then you've got the approved budget that you approved in June, and then the proposed budget that Joe and I have worked on most recently. So the reason that we are going ahead and proposing a revised budget is after a year end, we figured out what we could process, what we could quickly get done, and then we had to make adjustments for what is remaining, and then what we know that we are going to have to make work, which I'll note here in a moment, but you'll see the program, I'm just gonna talk about them at the high level in each category. So program-related expenses, we're increasing by just over, right around 50,000. The one thing that I would really like to note, Senator, is the contract facility management company for this building. We're having to increase it from 456, which was what we were projecting was our budget ask in June, to 534,000.
Why?
So that amount is what we contract with DeVaris, who is the management company that Department of General Services recommended that we utilize. They house the 2 full-time individuals. So one increase is due to being able to bring on our safety and security individual full-time.
Okay.
And then they hold the facilities manager, but they also manage all contracts for the building.
That's cleaning,
Cleaning,
HVAC.
yes, sir.
Landscaping.
Everything that you can think of, and then any projects that occur within the building, such as what Joe was mentioning with the updates, is from the DeVaris handles it. So the facility manager manages all quotes, and then he manages the project for us. So one part of the increase is because we were able to bring on a full-time safety and security individual, which we think is a priority. Especially with our university partners, we want to ensure that everything is up to par. And then the second reason is the continuation of inflation. You know, we have our utility costs are increasing, benefits, you know, any and everything. I think that we all have experienced that it is increasing. So what we have done, so as the senator said, that we had our next biennium budget request is coming up. We have submitted just for a full-time data specialist that will focus on our data to ensure that everything is has backup documentation and that we are reporting exactly what the state is requesting and requiring. What I did not submit for was a increase to cover these costs and the increase in due to inflation or increased pricing. We have, and please tell me to stop talking if you think it's inappropriate. But we have followed the direction that we've been given
That's inappropriate.
in discussing and reviewing contracts that we can negotiate. But we are well aware that once you kind of open that Pandora's box, and, you know, if you're seeking more quotes, then the potential of the quote coming in is going to be much higher than what you currently have due to increase in minimum wage and their costs from running their company. So with all of that said, going forward, unless I'm directed otherwise, we will not be doing an increase in funding request to cover increase in cost due to inflation as advised by.
Powers that be.
There you go. Powers that be. So we have adjusted the budget to make sure that we are covering the costs, but just note that anything moving forward for specific programs or projects that we would want to get launched, we're going to have to seek grant funding. So.
Question.
Yes, sir.
But I mean, look, and if I may comment on
Yes,
that,
sir.
let's be real. I mean, we've got to do the most we can with what we have. Also, we've got to show efficiency from that. And on top of that, we have got, at least we've heard that a lot of these higher ed centers and public education and the higher at the secondary level are going to be cut because we're going to have cuts in our budget. And it's across the board. It's not singling out anybody. So we're preparing for that. And we want to make sure that we're demonstrating value in what we're doing going forward. So not y'all's fault, but I think it's a prudent way to be. We've been and that's why I've been very dependent on Ms. Reed, because we have been very prudent with our dollars, with utilizing taxpayer funds. And if you remember the OSIG report, That was one of the things that they were charged with looking at, and one of the things that they came back and said, even comparatively speaking to other higher ed centers, we have been very, very prudent with the expenditures. So again, this follows a sound fiscal policy that respects the taxpayer dollar, and Christina Reed cuts with a scalpel like a surgeon, not an axe like a butcher, okay? So she does a
Still
very good
brings
job.
tears to my eyes.
You know, hey, you can't get a raise, but you can get a compliment all you want. Yes, Mike.
Yeah,
Are you raising your hand for Hubie now?
No, I wanted to go after.
Oh, okay.
okay. The manufacturing fiber, what is that?
You mean media services?
No, down towards the bottom, manufacturing fiber.
Okay. 273, yeah.
Oh, that line was there from prior year. We don't have, I do not think there's anything budgeted in that line item. I don't think it
Says
goes
it's
up.
the proposed budget is 115 and the prior
that
approved
right?
budget was 40,000.
The 115 lines up to building rental, non-state DGS admin. So the manufacturing fiber was for supplies in the prior year, and this year, we're asking zero monies for that. And the 115 is our lease payments for King Hall and for the lab building. Am I lining it up correctly?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay, see, I see 115.
we're getting old, I'm like,
Dude, you're wearing glasses and you're holding the arms.
I know,
Isn't that crazy?
and they're bifocals.
I love it.
Mr. Chairman,
Go to the data.
Senator Hanger.
I think we're right out of quorum. I have to leave promptly at 3:15.
Okay,
So I'd like to move that we approve the revised budget.
First, are there any questions about the budget that we can hustle through in the next 2.5 minutes? Do you have a quick question? Quick questions? There's a motion made on the floor to accept the revised budget for fiscal year 2024, made by Senator Hanger. Is there a second?
Well, I still am having questions.
Let's go into discussion. How about we put the motion on the floor and then we discuss it? Is there a second?
Second.
Second being properly supported by Cameron. Is there discussion on the budget?
Property taxes?
That is on King Hall
King Hall, yeah.
and on the lab building. We have to reimburse the landlord as part of the lease. It's the property taxes that they have, the landlord has to pay to the city. Real estate taxes.
Chairman, I just had one quick question.
Mike.
Thank you. The budget that was adopted on September 3rd had some new higher education money. I don't know the specifics enough to know whether it came to NCI, but I know several of the higher eds did receive an increase. Has there been any increase communicated?
Other than the 2%.
Yeah, the only thing that we're aware of is the 2% that's allocated for state employees.
Yeah, that's salary.
That's all.
And would
Mr. Harris.
would NCI have to pay 1%?
No,
No, there's no
Don't
match.
pay any.
no,
Only
no match. It would come from central.
That's local
appropriation.
monies.
Only for wage employees. So part-time wage employees, if they are not included in any of the statewide raises, so we have to provide that locally.
How did the education centers get by? Because all the other institutions we pay, or all the state agencies pay half or whatever that pay raise is.
Is that because those institutions have non-classified employees as well?
I only knew.
I mean, all state agencies, if the state mandates pay raise, half of it gets charged to the agency.
It's primarily for local governments, not state agencies.
Did you suspend
But state agents, for the past few years, the state agency in the budget bill, the language, the wording is that the state appropriates each agency the dollar amount. So we don't have to come up with
Yeah,
our
they-
budget.
They always say, okay, it's 5%, 2.5, each agency has to come up with that 2.5.
Mm-mm. We didn't have to do that for the past few years.
They're probably under it.
Please don't say that too loud. My budget's.
That's why we have Emmett Hanger on the board. He's on fire.
Start saying it out
Yeah,
loud.
you guys are busting us out here. Come on. That's a joke for the press, just a joke. Kidding.
I'll go it real quick. Just the other categories, salaries and related, we're in line with the original budget. Administrative and office has increased some, and that is in the line item for state entities that we partner with. And the largest fee is with Department of Human Resource Management, shared services for the HR piece, which now that we have a person on full-time, we will be reassessing that arrangement. So hopefully we can reduce some costs. And then IT stayed the same, and I reduced travel and accommodations to cover some of the expenses out of into programs. That is non-general. I mean, this is general fund. Is there any questions that I can help or address?
Our bills didn't go up because of inflation.
Our bills?
Yeah.
I increased those from last year.
That's the divorce.
Hmm?
That's included in the divorce line item.
And that, so when, in June, you had a comparison to the prior year and then the upcoming. So this is just what was approved in June.
Tick, 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 tick. All right, any further questions?
And do you want me to talk about non-general funds?
Quickly, because Emmett's got to go.
Okay, quickly, we're encouraged to utilize our non-general funds. You will see that we are requesting a use of 352,000 this year. And we can talk about those specific programs, but we are projecting our revenue for non-general funds to come in at, am I on here right? Am I on wrong? I lost my page. There it is. 1,215,000. That includes 353,000 of cash on hand. So just under $1 million is what we are anticipating revenue to come in at.
And Counselor, can we say that there's been a retention of legal fees as needed for potential litigation without going into closed session, right? And we've sufficiently done so to where we believe before we had those discussions, correct?
I think you just said that.
Yeah.
I'm just asking if I can. All right, so we got that done. All right,
Yep.
what else? Can I ask this question? Is there anything else? Christina?
And not unless someone has any specific
Any
questions I
questions?
can answer.
There's a first and a second, a motion of first properly supported by a second on the floor. Are there any further discussions? Chairman hearing none. All those in favor of passing the budget as amended and described in these documents and by Ms. Reed, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. And that motion carries. Thank you. All right. Oh, that's it. That's,
Unless they want to go in closed session.
I don't have any reason. You,
We
you wanna
were gonna
mouth what it
update
is?
you on something, but it doesn't need to happen immediately, I don't think. You tell him.
You've already said it.
whisper in my ear.
All I have to do is
Um,
close and then do it.
Hold on.
Then we can't come out.
Kidding.
No, then we can't come out because he's got to go.
She
He's
already-
gonna do it in pantomime. How about that?
Sorry, I'm back. I lost coverage for a bit.
Oh,
I mean, I
Mr.
don't
Chairman,
think
I
you need to
move
do
to
that.
adjourn.
Well, it's gonna. Yeah, give them a warning.
Why do we have to go into close for this?
Personnel. We don't have to.
Can you even
Do you have to have a quorum to go into close?
Yes,
Yes,
No?
There's a quorum in the room.
yes.
yes, you have to have a quorum.
I'd like to appeal to the Court of Appeals, Judge Marcus.
We have seven. You have seven. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay,
Sir.
let's quickly go into closed meeting. Motion to go into closed?
You
Session.
have,
We got to say what we're discussing.
yeah,
You have to have the script.
yeah, they have the script.
Make a motion. Yeah, we're going to talk about personnel issues very quickly.
I'd like to make a motion to enter into a closed meeting. At this time, I would enter a motion that the board go into, well, I don't know what to do.
You gotta read the
Yeah,
italicized.
just,
All right,
You got to
well,
read
that
the
says-
attachment.
All right, Richard.
yeah, Mr. Expert.
At this time.
He looks like he's fixing his car out in the wilderness, like it's broken down. I mean, like, look, he pulled all the wires out and now he can't get his car started and the hood's open. All right, keep going.
At this time, I'd like to enter a motion that the board go into a closed meeting to discuss personnel matters related to the employment, assignment, appointment, or performance of specific employees pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A1. In consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by NCI regarding special legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-371A8.
Awesome. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second being properly supported. All in favor, do we take the roll?
Just a vote.
Oh, okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. That motion carries. We're now going into closed session. Those in the room who are not members of the board,